Morning Virgo. I'm back from Italy and I'm in the Lake District with some friends and it's incredibly beautiful. I'm very grateful to be here, it's lovely. So I've crept out this morning to a field about 15 minutes away from where we're staying. Tomorrow I might try up the mountains a bit. I walked quite a long way yesterday and I'm not 100% mobile, so it's taken its toll. But anyway, let's see. Celtic Cross, 78 Degrees of Wisdom version by Rachel Pollock. Yeah, let's just dive straight in. Let me just cut the deck a bit. Okay, so a card for Virgo's internal life. Oh, lovely. 10 of Cups. And externally, this is making them act as the Six of Swords. The basis of this situation, Temperance. And something from the recent past, Ten of Swords, and a potential outcome. Ten of Wands, interesting. And something from the near future, King of Cups. Then, to organise this. This way for a moment. I'm on an uneven surface in this meadow. Then something about so Virgo's attitude. Virgo's attitude. There we go. Nine of Wands. Interesting. And their environment. Okay. Page of Wands. Hopes and fears. Virgo's hopes and fears, please. King of Pentacles. Oh, and the other one just dropped out. So is this your, yeah, there's your outcome. I'm just going to cap it because it sort of came out very definitely, but I hadn't said outcome. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's with the Two of Cups. So the Three of Cups with the Two of Cups and the Queen of Wands. So that's a lovely end with, yeah, that's really nice. So let's have a look at this. So 2 10s. Sorry, 3 10s. So it's a sense of a kind of minor culmination of something in your life at the moment. And then I think we're in the bit that happens after things end, because Temperance is the basis of the situation. So I sort of get the feeling as if there's a bit of a pause. Yeah. So let's dive in. And oh, major-wise, we have only one major. And swords, 2 swords, cups, 1, 2, 3 cups, 2 wands, 1 pentacle. Is that right? Yeah, only 1 pentacle. Anyway, let's see what comes out when we start reading it. So internally we see you as the Ten of Cups, which is lovely. And it might well be because there has been an ending in the recent past, and it might have been an ending into something that was purely negative. I know it sounds a bit strange, but yeah, something that threatened your stability in your home life. And I feel like you're restored to a happy position, and the way that this is making you act in the external world is the Six of Wands. So you're taking everything you've learned from this situation, and you are taking all parts of yourself, or your family, however you'd like to see this, from choppy waters into a calmer time. So that's really lovely. I'm just going to see with my glasses on what pops out with the Ten of Cups. It's the dancing children today. Very firmly, they look really animated to me today in this beautiful dance. And actually, look at that lovely little one with the blue coat, the smaller of the two. Let's see, is that him? He just looks hilarious. Can't I quite see that? There we go. He looks really, really fun. So something about your inner child being very ignited at the moment, or indeed if you have children, there's a chance that they're very, very happy about this turn of events. But I think it's your inner child. And yes, that's interesting, because that little kid has a blue coat on. And in the way it's making you act, we see the blue coat on the child here. I think it's predominantly your inner child that's been rescued somehow in this situation. Maybe you've been feeling a bit bit down recently and not kind of connected to a sort of sense of play. But I think it's been reignited. Because I think you're being given a chance to rest from some heavy burdens, because the basis of the situation is the Temperance card. A pause in a piece of music, a pregnant pause, a pause that is productive. And what I'm seeing here today is the face of the angel really concentrating on this kind of alchemical process of this magical way in which the water is moving bit illogically through the air, from one cup to the other. I can see the toes in the water, the neck muscles. Yeah, it's like you're sort of hatching a plan for the new stage. And your inner child is very happy about it, because I think whatever the new stage is, you have stopped suppressing something that was needing to be expressed from your inner world. Whether that was... yeah, because of the way I saw that child dancing, I just feel like it's kind of expression generally, but kind of that unfettered expression. So I come from a family who are all quite talented artists, and because I always thought of myself as okay at art, but I didn't have any great aspirations, and I'm really not a brilliant artist, but I'm a very free artist, and I love drawing and painting or anything, making anything. Now, it might be because I went to an incredible school which encouraged, as a child, until I was about 12, which encouraged a lot of beautiful creative expression. And in fact, it's rather lovely because I'm in the Lake District at the moment, and the Lake District in England is a northern area, incredibly beautiful, and it was an area most beloved by, or very beloved by, a children's, this is interesting, a children's writer called Beatrice Potter, who you might or might not know depending on the country you come from. And she wrote these little illustrated books, really beautiful. She was actually a very talented writer, and they were books about animals, Peter Rabbit, and they were sort of animals with characters. And there was a farmer, Mr. McGregor, I think he was called, and they're very collectible, and people make little figurines of them. Anyway, my school, when I was a little girl in London, was on the site of her house. and it was an incredibly joyful place for me and for lots of people. I'm sure there were some people who went who didn't love it, but for me it was an incredibly joyful, productive, child-like idyll in a way. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it really was. It was because I was allowed to express myself. My brother and sister both went there as well, and we all had the same feeling. And so, so back to Beatrice Potter, so whose house the school was built on, the foundations of her childhood home, because she was, I want to say sort of 1890s. I'm not entirely sure. She would have been born around the 1890s and then come into the 1900s. I think that's about right, or maybe she was a bit earlier. Anyway, she absolutely loved the Lake District, so much so that when she became wildly successful, she used her money to create a kind of national park here to conserve the landscape. And it's absolutely stunning. Where I'm staying is nowhere near the lakes, so it's very, very quiet because it tends to attract. The lakes are where people galvanise because there are these giant lakes. But to be honest, I've never seen. I've been here a couple, or maybe I have once. But anyway, we stay up in the hills and on our own little tip here because it's just like having the whole of the countryside to yourself. So there's a long-winded way of saying that the child in that first image of the Ten of Cups that I was really focusing in on feels about the age that a child would be that would enjoy the Beatrice Potter books. So I want to say somewhere between 4 and 8. That's just off the top of my head. Not to say you couldn't enjoy them before or after, but and I think that side of you, and back to the art, the way that I can be unjudgmental with my creative process when I'm doing art. I think that's what you've regained. There was something that you judged yourself for, or had suppressed, or just hadn't connected with for a long time, that's come back into play. And it's creating a lot of stress relief for you. I think it kind of, it makes sense of life. It's like an enchantment. Like, so when you're in a place like this, I'm just sat in a very simple field, and I've sort of not found the field that I intended to find. Because there's one which was, we walked through yesterday, absolutely full of wildflowers. I mean, this has got quite a few, but lots of clover and stuff. But the point is, like, I'm looking just in that direction here. The sun has just popped out. There's butterflies. There's this very fine grass with beautiful dewdrops all over it that are glistening in quite a particular way. And so it's putting me in mind of that kind of enchantment of the everyday that we have as children generally, and that we gradually grow to ignore, but the miracle of being alive, the miracle of, any situation really, I mean, that we're here. I feel like we lose that kind of enchantment sometimes, and that kind of sense of awe, and I think somehow you reconnected to it, and it could be around the natural world. I mean, we've got a path up into the mountains here, and the sun coming up on the Temperance card as the basis of the situation. Yeah, and I think it's going to keep on producing very lovely circumstances in your life if you can keep connecting to that sense of awe and wonder, and not forgetting it, not abandoning that side of yourself. And you might just be in a sort of bit of a pause in order to kind of ground that energy in. Because in the recent past, Ten of Swords, it's a sense of completely giving in, like we're not going to struggle anymore with the situation. We understand it's over. It's like when you get to the end of a relationship and you really know in your heart of hearts that there's nothing else that you can do, or, you know, any situation that is beyond rescue, and there's a sort of relief in a way of just giving in, it's over, which means there's a new day coming. And it's interesting, the new day is the mountains in the background underneath the dawn are the same blue as the jacket of that little child that is dancing in your inner world and then being transported to safer grounds in your attitude. So I think that's your new territory, which is just gorgeous. Now, one potential outcome is the Ten of Wands, which is interesting to me, because one would think if you had sort of finally alighted on the wisdom of your inner child, you wouldn't necessarily get stuck into this kind of obsessive, overburdened energy. Unless this is a residual, because we've got the Nine of Wands turning up in your attitude in a little while. I mean, it could be you getting used to sort of translating this new sense of yourself into the world. Ten of Wands, why are you carrying those wands? It's the card of a workaholic, and it's not to say that you're not enjoying your work. It could be that there is an aspect of your creative work, or that really obsesses you, and that has got quite, and therefore you might be missing what you need to see in the village ahead of you. Because it's kind of a heavy energy that I don't associate with that child. So it's interesting. Let's see if I can work out why that's coming through. Could be that other people, that you have just a lot of responsibilities. I mean, it's not to say just because you've discovered how enchanting the world is that you don't still have a very strong role in a work situation or a family that requires a lot of your energy. And maybe what it's saying is that will feel more evident. The burden of those responsibilities might feel a little bit more evident once you can compare those daily and sort of overburdens in a way. Once you compare them, your daily responsibilities to it's funny, I'm getting this. Why has that happened now? Yeah, once you compare your daily responsibilities to this sense of awe that you might have discovered on a holiday, that you've just finally taken a break, and then maybe one potential outcome is that the rest of your world just feels so heavy, once you realise how much fun it can be. And in the near future, we see the King of Cups, who's all at sea really. He is a king, he is established, but he's on this platform. It's right in the middle of the sea. There's a fish jumping in a ship. What else do I see today? Seeing the kind of detail on the stone of his chair, that kind of column and the crown. Doesn't look too unhappy today. He's got that foot that's similar again. It turns up a few times in the tarot to the Temperance, which was the basis of the situation, but hers is more fully submerged, but his is heading for that water. So it's sort of, to me, kind of a sense of your connection to the unconscious, to the emotional world, to his is a little bit wilder. than what the Temperance card is dealing with. And so that might be that you are feeling in the near future a little bit overwhelmed. And I know that some people feel about the King of Cups that he also is a bit flip-floppy. You know, one minute he loves something and then he's not sure about it. He's very sort of taken by moments and then quickly diverted. I mean, although he should be emotionally mature because he's a king, he definitely isn't completely on solid ground emotionally. Perhaps because he's so connected to the emotional waters, and emotions change quickly. And there is there is an argument to say that if you connect your inner child strongly, a child has emotions that rocket through them at breakneck speed. As long as they don't hold on to them, and as long as those are acknowledged by themselves and those around, they will just keep cycling. Fury goes into upset, goes into joy, goes into, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more emotional because you're connected to that side of yourself. That is a potential. Because in your attitude, we see you as the 9 of Wands. Yeah, a little bit defensive. You've been in a bit of a battle. It could be this perception of your life generally as needing to have a kind of huge pivot because you've connected to this more joyful, childlike side of your nature, and so then everything else is feeling like you feel a little bit prickly and overwhelmed. So it sort of gives me the sense that although you are in that 6 of Swords, which is your external world, moving from choppy grounds to something more stable, I think there isn't a sense that you've 100% arrived yet in this first part of the reading, that you're still feeling a bit overburdened, a bit defensive, and as if you've just sort of reawakened from this ending. And you've sort of got to protect that little child, really. Maybe the defensiveness that will come into play with this 9 of Wands isn't such a bad thing. I want you to protect that connection. If you're feeling it, I want you to protect that, because I think it's the way to your abundance. In your environment, the Page of Wands, so back to that idea of that youthful energy. Page of Wands is a very excitable character, probably is a bit like that little kid in the blue coat dancing. He's very inspired, he's got an idea a minute, he's all over the shop, and he's looking at the tip of his wand for inspiration. And so I wonder whether you're around a lot of children, or whether it's that your environment, your home environment, your kind of what you're marinating in at the moment is that energy of play. And I'm pleased to see that, because around it I can see sort of some stress and some overwhelm, but I am really pleased that your environment is still encouraging that side of you. And your hopes and fears are the King of Pentacles. I think the King of Pentacles represents to me sort of stewardship of a family, of a large amount of wealth. Why is that so wet? Strange, it's really wet there on this mat. And so I think in your hopes and fears, you want to be able to look after all these parts of yourself. You want to feel that you'll be able to encourage that child, but also bring a maturity to bear that allows you to sort of be a good steward, be a wealthy, established individual in society. Yeah, I'm looking at the towers of his home behind him, or his castle. We haven't got any other castles here, so it's like you know, we've got images of little, smaller villages in the Ten of Wands. And, yeah. But I feel here you're really wanting to establish something. I mean, put in stone this relationship with this inner child. Be able to kind of tend for it and to it, and not feel beleaguered and overwhelmed like we see you in your attitude here. But a bit more kind of gatekeeper. I've got this. I've got the resources to manage this situation. I'm on top of it. That's the feeling I get. And the outcome's just lovely. So the Three of Cups was what came through. Just popped off the out of the deck when I was pulling cards, and then when I clarified, I got the Two of Cups and the Queen of Wands. I feel like, you know, the we're back to dancing again. So we've got the dancing in your first inner self, and now it's a sense of, you know, a continuation of that kind of joyful self-expression. It's sort of interesting that this card's got wet, and I can't work it out because I've got a kind of plastic, not plastic, a sort of woven mat that I'm sitting on that is waterproof, and none of the other cards have got that wet. I don't know whether I'd put something on it that was wet before, but, you know, sorry, I'm going back to your hopes and fears, because wet makes me think of him, not him. So I think what it's saying is this is your near future, and what I'm feeling is that because this was wet, it's like, and I've been drying it out, it's like getting him onto firmer grounds in your hopes and fears. It's like becoming a little bit less wobbly, a lot more sure and secure, because the King of Pentacles is incredibly secure and grounded. Pentacles, earth, from that watery space, sort of a solid setup is interesting. But I think it's about that transformation of the sense of overwhelm. We see you in your hopes and fears going into a stage where you can be in communion with that childlike side of yourself without it being worrying or overwhelming. So back to this outcome. So far from the Ten of Wands as your potential outcome, we now see you back in playful dancing mode and in connection to those that you love and things that you love in partnership. It's really beautiful. And the Queen of Wands, who I think is connected, well, she is 100% connected to her creative side. She is an incredibly creative being. And so it's a sort of, it's a kind of productive engagement into that childlike energy. She's going to create some things. And it's interesting, the lions of the Two of Cups and the lions on her throne and behind her. And I'm seeing lots of green on the top of her crown. It's very strange. This field is I'm staying on the other side of this little river, and I crossed the river over a stone bridge and then walked along the side of it, and it's got the strangest high-pitched noise over here, and it suddenly started again here. So as I walked up this tiny, tiny lane, there's a bank of beautiful old trees, moss-covered, on this side of the road. And just before that, there's a field with a really giant rock in it. And as I got nearer the rock, and then there was this really strong noise in my ear, and it's come back again. Like something wants to talk in this field. It's strange. Anyway, I think it's just so lovely. I think you rescue that childlike sense of wonder, and you mature it, or you employ other sides of yourselves to protect it, and then we see dancing adults as opposed to dancing children, and I think it indicates that rather than feeling overburdened by your creativity that we see in the potential outcome, or you're sort of, potentially over obsessed with some sort of work, I think the actual outcome shows you finding something incredibly creative and rewarding that you completely love from the Two of Cups perspective, that gets you back into that joy. Yes, the Queen of Wands has got her one wand, but she's using it to command things in the world. And now there's joy and dancing, and yeah, I just think this is the start of a really nice new creative phase for you. It's beautiful. Now I did have, let's see if they're here, a tiny deck of tarot that we might just pull. Let's pull a couple of little clarifiers, because the way I've been doing it recently is with other decks. So I've been using the Shining Path Tarot by Rachel Pollock, which I have to look up. Okay, so here we go. These two. Oh yeah, that's a gorgeous clarification. And also the Enchanted Forest Tarot, but I didn't bring them here. I got a lift up to the lakes and wasn't quite sure how much I should bring, so I've just bought a tinier deck of these as well. But what beautiful clarification. So King of Wands to go with your Queen of Wands and your outcome, and the Six of Cups just to completely clarify that yes, you are reconnecting to something from childhood that you absolutely loved, or an energy or a childlike quality. I mean, soulmates, siblings, deep heartfelt connection to something in a very nostalgic, beautiful way. And where was that castle that we saw in the back of, I mean, it's quite a grand castle with the King of Pentacles, but this shows you you're in the village at last, the village that you were missing in the Ten of Wands with your potential outcome, that we see you outside of in a lot of the cards here, not in your internal world at all. You're in it. You're in it. And it's productive. To have the King and the Queen of Wands, it's a kind of rooted creative energy now. There's no way of shifting that. Look at his magnificent cloak. He's really... So the Queen of Wands is looking off to one side. She's facing us with her open legs and her strong stance, but she's looking off to one side. And the King of Wands is firmly to the side. He's not facing us at all. So if it makes me feel that you've got your eyes on something that you're going to pursue creatively now. And where she has lions behind him, he has salamanders and lions. And salamanders are about his protection, so it's like a kind of protective quality coming around this childlike love and innocence and engagement. What else are we seeing on this? Smelling the flowers. There's a character in the back with his back to us. Do you see him walking away? Back to the tower. And it is interesting, there's sort of missing tiles on that roof in a way, and there is a character in the background. It's interesting. I mean, it sort of makes me think that you need to sort of put some extra work into repairing that kind of territory in your head. I feel like that guy with his back to us is sort of having a look at it all and deciding, he's kind of a protective, restorative influence while they're just enjoying themselves. So I think that that's probably what your next phase is about, is just shoring up, using that King of Pentacles energy to I sort of know it in myself, you know, like there have been phases in my life where I've disconnected completely from childlike things, and often they're when you're kind of leaving childhood in your early 20s, you're so focused on where you want to get to or how one is supposed to be an adult, and you want to sort of distance yourself from childlike things so you can kind of really dive into a world and forget to bring along all those other bits. And that childlike energy is so important. It's really, really vital that you keep connected to it. Life's a lot less fun if you won't be childlike, if you won't play. Play is so important. I was reading a book when I was in Italy. I don't know whether I've bought it here. You know, one of those kind of productivity books I picked up in the airport. I've got a bit of a penchant for them. But it came from the business section. So it's sort of about being a kind of productive, excellent at something kind of person. And the section that I'd sort of left off reading was about how if you can integrate play into your ability to kind of hyper-focus on what it is you want to become excellent at, that you are much more likely to keep putting the work in and learn more from each rehearsal, practice session, sports training session, or, you know, sitting down to write or whatever it is. So I think that's what it's putting me in mind of, is that you've connected into a way of playing with whatever it is that you're wanting to create that has kind of reignited it for you, and it's now not hard work. It's no longer giving you these vibes. It's like, yeah, I want to turn up to rehearse, to practice, to train, to whatever it is in your life. It could be looking after children, tending to your family, whatever it is. It now feels fun again. It doesn't feel onerous, and that's a cause for celebration. So that's fantastic. That's lovely, Virgo. Thank you very much for joining me here, and I'll see you again.